Hello and welcome to Japanese craft beer reviews. Today we will begin looking at a series of beers, and those beers are not Japanese. They are craft, although some people are kind of feeling that at this point they are maybe becoming mainstream because they've tried too hard to be unusual, to be indie, to be everything that is not major brewery beer. We'll talk about that in a second, but this brewery is called BrewDog, and they have been around since 2007. They were founded by two guys in the UK. They are a British brewery. I'm sorry, a Scottish brewery, yes, British. And those two men are James Watt and Martin Dickey, and they founded their brewery in Scotland, and they immediately became known or famous, and I guess the word is notorious. Notoriety is probably the word to use for their approach to marketing. They immediately started out with some unusual names, things like this beer, Dead Pony Club, and they actually started marketing, crowdfunding in 2011, and selling shares called Equity for Punks. Their containers, they sold a beer in a dead squirrel, or actually piece of taxidermy, but a squirrel. You can find this online, holding the bottle for an outrageous price. And they've had clashes with CAMRA, the British Association to promote real ale. They've had clashes with CAMRA about their attendance at CAMRA festivals, and in any case, they're pretty well known, and they do export to a lot of different countries. They produce a lot of beer these days. In 2012, they moved to a new brewery in a place called Ellon, E-L-L-O-N, in Scotland, and they have 5 breweries around the world now, and they've even expanded into hotels. They have 3 hotels. I think 2 of them are in Columbus, Ohio, in the U.S. And they have 78 bars around the world. So wherever you are in maybe a major city around the world, there's a very good likelihood that you can find a BrewDog bar. In Asia, they opened one in Tokyo, one in Seoul, and one in Shanghai. And in Tokyo was pretty early, 2008, so right away. I'm sorry, no, that was a beer, never mind. I've never been to that one. They also got famous for trying to brew the strongest beer in the world, and originally that was called Tokyo. I think it was around 8%, and that was in 2008. And then 2009, they brewed a beer called Tactical Nuclear Penguin, kind of nonsense name, and then they started getting into a alcohol level ABV war with a brewery called Shoresbrau, and producing beers, and Shoresbrau produced one at 40%, and then this is a German brewery, so BrewDog attacked them with a beer called Sink the Bismarck, of course, which is a rallying cry from England, or from the UK during the war. Sink the Bismarck, and that was at 54%, I believe. And now some other brewery, I can't remember the name, has come up with something I think around 60%. So it's kind of silly, but it gets attention. It's in the news. I have to say that their beers, there's been some pushback from I think the craft beer scene for all this attention that they try to get with their weird names and all these stunts, actually you could call them. They make some wonderful limited beers. There was an event in Kyoto in 2013, about 7 years ago now, which I went to at a one of the best craft beer bars at the time, called Tiggs. It was run by an Irish man named Tig McLaughlin. And Neil Taylor, their representative, came and he brought a variety of beers. And then he had a selection of their limited beers like Abstract Series, Dog B, Coco Psycho, and so a variety of these more expensive, very limited beers. And those are absolutely wonderful, aged beers and really extreme beers. So in any case, we're going to look at a series of BrewDog beers. I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different beers from BrewDog that are available in Japan. And we're going to start right now. All right, and here we are with the last of our BrewDog beers we're going to look at. This is number 6 in the series of 6, and it's called BrewDog Elvis Juice. And this is a flavored IPA, flavored with grapefruit, or as they say, grapefruit infused. An IPA at 6.5%, 40 international bittering units. And this is the version that they started making in 2016. So there was an earlier version apparently, which I don't think I've had. And in any case, so 6.5%, 40 international bittering units. On RateBeer, this one has 3,557 separate ratings at 3.79 average out of 5, and 93 percentile for all beers on RateBeer, and 94 for its style, which is IPA flavored. Untapped, 279,573 separate ratings, and the average score is 3.74, so pretty close between them. Now the backstory of this here is, and we've talked about how in the earlier section of this review, we talked about how BrewDog is very involved in marketing and a lot of hype around different aspects of their beers, and including this one with the name. Elvis Presley Enterprises has trademarked the name, and they were sued by, BrewDog was sued by them, and what happened was the two founders, James Watt and Martin Dickey, changed their names legally to Elvis, both of them. So they could thus claim that they could not be sued for this beer because it was their name. The case was dismissed in the European Union in 2020. Apparently BrewDog lost. I don't know exactly why they're still using the name Elvis Juice, or what Elvis Presley Enterprises happens or plans on doing about it, but they did lose in September 2020 in the European Union. So I guess that means perhaps they can sell it outside of the European Union with the same name. But I really don't know. I have rated this before. 3 years ago I rated it 3.5, so we'll see how it goes. On the bottom it says Cadillac Juice. Cadillac Juice. So what do you think, baby? Should we give this one a roll? All juiced up and ready to roll, as it says here. Okay. All right. Often I don't like IPAs that have extra fruit into them. Ideally, the brewer can connect the hops to those to try to emulate those flavors through the hopping. Okay. Okay, it is a very, very, very cloudy, dark, sort of caramel, kind of amber color with a solid inch of frothy, let's say off-white, not quite tan head. Whoo, whoo, whoo. Okay. The aroma has a lot of pine, very earthy stone fruit. I mean, very definitely get the grapefruit, but it seems like sweetened candy-ish, grapefruit candy. And actually almost a little bit like licorice or anise or something like that. Flavors, we get oranges, lemon, tangerine, some grapefruit for sure. There is some bitterness, and I wonder if this is from peel, like a zestiness that, kind of citrus oil. Unusual, very definitely. Yeah, this one doesn't offend me like some other infused IPAs do. It does have a bit of this candy-ish note that slightly off-putting, but in the flavor it kind of disappears. So, yeah. So the malts in this are extra pale, and I assume it's Maris Otter extra pale, and caramalt, which is the same that they used in Punk IPA. And the hops are Amarillo, Citra, Magnum, Mosaic, and Simcoe. And they also used grapefruit peel and orange in the mix. So, interesting, enjoyable, unusual. Yeah, I still like this quite a bit. So once again, this is called BrewDog Elvis Juice. Whether or not you're an Elvis fan, give it a go. And I would imagine a lot of the people drinking this don't really know who Elvis is, perhaps, or why he was important at one certain point in time. Yeah, so give it a try, and let me know what you think. Tell me about your experience with BrewDog beers and what your opinion is. As I mentioned before, they're kind of getting knocked around a bit these days. The effort to be cool and unusual, or trying to market their beers with some sort of stunts, doesn't seem quite as acceptable as it once was. Even if it was then, I don't know. But they've grown and grown and grown and grown, and so they are everywhere now. This is the last of our BrewDog reviews, and you can go on and check the playlist. I've reviewed 6 of them, and see what you think. And try out BrewDog, and tell me what you think. Okay, so leave me a comment and subscribe to the channel. Okay, bye-bye.